Years go back, way back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto, brought to you by Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
Tell me now, where are we going this time?
Welcome to the show, a special holiday edition of the Defo Show. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz, and if it's Wednesday, we always enjoy, and it's a pleasure, a privilege to welcome to the program one of our favorites, the iconic broadcaster here in South Florida. He is the man, whether you were talking about sports or news, did it for over 40 years, all at NBC. George Michael, Sports Machine, no problem whatsoever. He filled in there, and the people were calling for Tony, even when George came back. Right? It was a Lou Gehrig type of situation there. And so had national acclaim as a sportscaster, and I was a pioneer in those weekly highlight shows. I mean, ESPN didn't exist back then. Right. And if they did, they were televising like women's field hockey from the University of New Haven. And I had Tom Mees doing Sports Center the rest of the time.
Yeah,
Tony Segreto with us here. We go old school with Tony. It's always a pleasure to have him with us. And Tony, of course, on the Orange Bowl committee, where, wow, I mean, the spotlight is on South Florida. This is what they want when they came up with this thing.
This is big time. This is as big time as it gets. Listen, we've had the national championship game, but I don't think the buzz around that was nearly as big as the buzz around this one right now between Michigan and Georgia. And I have to add something to you. You know, you're talking about the Sports Machine, and again, God bless George Michael and all that stuff. I still stay in touch with the staff. But do you know, Defo, and I think you may have done it too, I used to do live horse racing for WWOR.
Oh, nice.
From Hialeah and from Gulfstream. So we would broadcast the races live, analyze the races. I would be doing it with Sam Rennick, a former jockey.
I do remember Sam Rennick.
And we would analyze each race and then show the race live back to WWOR. And it was wonderful. I used to do it every weekend from either Gulfstream or Hialeah, depending on who was open at the time. So it was great. So we were horse racing was big, and what we did there was a prelude to the games that we do now.
Yes. No, I was enjoying doing the horse racing telecasts. I did many of them. I had horse racing shows, and we used to also do. And Bob Savage started this tradition in South Florida, and he would have the show called "Let's See the Races."
Yep.
Which was sponsored by Tropical Acres, 70 years here in South Florida, a steakhouse of some acclaim, and he would always reference the great Sam Studiali, and I thought, wow, there's a cool cat. I'm gonna go ahead and patronize his restaurant because he's a horse racing guy. And then I ended up doing that show and many live broadcasts of thoroughbred racing, Tony, and you can appreciate it with your WOR thing because often when equipment is spread out all over a large, sprawling landscape like a racetrack, and the event is taking place in various locations, shit goes wrong.
Yeah, it does. It does. You know, you talk about that restaurant. Was there anything more legendary? I think of it so fondly, and I miss it. Going to Gulfstream on a Saturday, beautiful Saturday in the early spring, so it wasn't terribly hot yet. Spent a day at the track, and then you leave. And you went to Monero's.
Yes.
A classic
Gorgonzola salad was our big thing.
With a Gorgonzola salad in a big wooden bowl with just seasoned bartenders with great martinis. I mean, it was about as good a day as you could possibly get. And regrettably, Monero's is not there anymore. I was there the last week that they were open, and the celebrations and the tears were plentiful. But special place for those. And anybody listening or watching who had been to Monero's, we'd love to hear from you, because I tell you what, it was just, there was no telling who would be in there, from jockeys to some of the greatest owners and trainers to athletes. And not that a jockey isn't an athlete, but I'm talking about football, baseball, basketball players that would go in there and just kind of hang. It was a great place.
Those places are tremendous. I mean, it's old school where you gathered after a sporting event.
Yeah.
And in particular, the horse races. There were a couple of classic places outside of Santa Anita that if you went in there, you would see, the racing crowd. And they were relaxed and a whole different environment. And it's one of the great things about, and this is what I always enjoyed. I kind of gravitated towards covering racing and boxing because you could very easily integrate yourself without trying to be like some stargazer or jock sniffer yourself into the whole culture of the sport because
yeah,
the
for
people
sure.
would welcome you if you were in one of these restaurants. You're sitting there shooting a breeze with Shug McGahee after he just won one of the big stakes races on the Gulfstream card with some huge horse that was going to then be favored in the Kentucky Derby, and it was as if he was your friend his entire life, and that's the way I found both of those sports to be.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, how many times did you and I sit on the backside and just sit on a stool and BS with Woody Stevens? I mean, and he was never in a hurry, and you made yourself never in a hurry. I had some of those opportunities with great athletes. My very first interview, I had that opportunity with the great Jesse Owens, and those are classic days.
Your first
Those
interview
are-
was Jesse Owens?
Jesse Owens.
First
Wow.
interview was
Wow,
Jesse
you're amazing.
Owens. So here, we'll pull the curtain back for sure on this one, okay? So I was like 19 years old. I go to the Fontainebleau to interview Jesse Owens, one-man band, right? Had the camera, set the camera up, and then did the interview. Made sure that he was in the frame, did the interview. And he was in Miami representing Teachers. I think it was Teachers Scotch, which, sort of, it's, at the time, it wasn't your top shelf stuff, but
you'd rather drink a bottle of Ripple? Is that what you're
yeah,
saying?
but anyway, so anyway, he enjoyed the interview to the point where he goes, "Have you ever had a scotch?" And I go, "Well, I'm 19. My parents were
We
never
were
ashamed."
19 at the time.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
You're
my
guzzling whiskey
parents,
with this guy?
my parents were never ashamed of showing me. They drank, but they weren't out of control. He goes, "Well, how about I take you to the bar and teach you how to drink scotch?" And I go,
Jesse
Jesse
Owens.
Owens.
Greatest track
Isn't
star
Jesse
in the
Owens
history
like
of the
this?
world.
yeah. So I go, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." So we go to the bar, and he says to the bartender, "I'm going to teach this young man how to drink scotch. So I want you to line him up. I want you to line it up
Line 'em
neat. I want you to line them up a glass of scotch neat with water on the rocks and with soda." I'm looking
All
around
right.
going, "What? Yeah, are you kidding me right now?" But this is Jesse Owens. I am not going to blow this, right? I'm not going to
Yeah,
leave it.
you're going to have to at least try something.
Yep.
Well, needless to say,
Did you ever drink scotch? I'm not a scotch drinker,
was
so
gonna
I
say
could live without ever tasting it
well,
again.
I am now.
Oh, okay. Well, you were then, anyway. Yeah.
But I remember getting back to the office, and Bernie Rosen, God rest his soul, too, bring me in, and he goes, "So what happened?" I go, "It was Jesse Owens." He goes, "I get it. I know. But you better learn. You're going to be interviewing a lot of Jesse Owens."
Yeah. What
You're
about
gonna
Paul
be-
Horning if you
yeah.
ran into him at the track?
Exactly.
Oh yeah, and I did games with Paul Horning.
Yeah.
Then we'd wind up at B. Morley's Mousetrap on 79th
He
Street.
wasn't afraid to throw him down when he was
No,
betting
he
the ponies
wasn't.
or any other type of event. Pete
But
Axtell,
in
remember
any-
Pete?
but-
He was
yeah,
always at the bar.
Pete Axel too. But in any event, that my story is, and it was wonderful. It was when he was writing the book and everything that we talked about obviously what's in the book and the things that he had gone through and one of the things that still kind of resonates with me is that how he was saying that the night before his race in the Olympics, he got a call from the president saying, kind of the weight of the world is on your shoulder. We're all pulling for you because you've got to prove to the Aryan race that
This was Germany, right? Munich.
Nazi Germany, yeah.
Yeah, they can't
Hitler's in the
beat us.
crowd, man.
Hitler's in
It
the
was
Hitler,
the whole thing. Yep.
yeah, Hitler's like he's running in front of Hitler.
Yeah.
And the president is saying to him, all these things, how important this was, on and on and on. And Jesse tells the story. He hangs up the phone and he thinks to himself, "Here I am. The entire country is behind me. They're rooting for me. They're telling me the pressure I'm under. Yet, regardless of whether I win or lose, when I come back, I still have to sit in the back of the bus. I still have to drink out of a designated water fountain. I still can't live where I want to live." In fact, when he got the humanitarian, he got some award in New York. And in order to go to the ballroom, he was not allowed to take the regular elevator. He had to take the freight elevator
Donnery.
Wow.
up to the ballroom.
Ugliness.
Load of garbage.
How awful is that? Yeah.
Great story, though, young Tony Segreto. Hey, we're having a bridge edition of the show, so we want to get in a couple of words for some fine people. And
Yeah.
New Year's Eve, people are thinking food, and we start thinking about Texas Roadhouse and Ed Garcia and the great job that these guys do. And as we were talking about last week, I went to a place, nice steak. It was very tasty. And as I'm chowing down on this thing, I was thinking of you, Tony. I was thinking I could have eaten the same quality of steak and maybe even in a more atmospheric place that was conducive to my sporting instincts at Texas Roadhouse for half the price.
Absolutely. And I think what's special about Texas Roadhouse is no matter when you go, where you go, whatever restaurant you go to around the country, and they have 600 plus restaurants around the country, you're going to get a consistently good meal and a consistently low ticket at the end of the night. Okay. Because they're all about making it worthwhile to the family. And you talk about volumes of food. You're not going to go, if you walk out of Texas Roadhouse hungry, it's your fault.
That's something wrong with you.
Truly your fault. Okay. From their steaks to their potatoes, to their appetizers, to their cold beer, to their margaritas, to the amazing bread with their Cindy Hunneman butter. You can't get better than the Texas Roadhouse. They treat you like family. They make you feel welcome all the time. If you're a regular, they know your name. They know your birthday. They know your anniversary. They are always embracing you like, hello, how are you? They have the strictest and probably one of the best protocols when it comes to COVID and keeping things clean. You feel safe. It's just an amazing place. The culture is awesome. And I can't speak about it more highly than right now. If you're looking for a good meal and if you haven't been, shame on you. Go to the Texas Roadhouse. It's worth the wait.
People have like negative connotations they have about franchise places and
Well, they don't have
chain restaurants. But you know what? There are some really well-run examples of these types of restaurants, and Texas Roadhouse is right there at the top. I mean, just a well-run place. They take a lot of individual pride in the locations, the people, the local
Lubie,
places. A lot of pride in that, and there's, I don't know that it's a competition, but they want to be the best in each individual location, and that's largely due in part to regional management like Ed Garcia.
Lubie and I saw it firsthand. Every restaurant has their own butcher.
Yeah,
they make their own food there. It isn't shipped in on a semi trailer, right, Lubie?
It's crazy. That was.
Hey, Lou, back up the truck. It's nothing like that. Yeah,
no, not
crazy.
at all. They make their own bread there every day. They make their own salad dressings at that location every day. The butcher is in there cutting the meat every day.
That's crazy.
It's incredible.
And the price is right. No, fantastic. Yeah. Texas Roadhouse restaurants all over the country, and a lot of locations where we are in South Florida. Tony's finding them all over the place too. I ran into that one joint in Lexington. It was absolutely just crushing it by comparison to other restaurants that were fine. I mean, good establishments all over the place, but there was Texas Roadhouse with a full parking lot and people more than happy to wait outside and sip a margarita while they waited to get to their table. All right, a couple of things happening. Of course, New Year's Eve, just 2 nights away. Tony Segreto, I know you're going to be on the scene there at the Orange Bowl game, and thank you very much for your very astute thinking in providing Ed Garcia with 12 tickets to the game.
Well, listen.
Talk about a shrewd businessman.
He's a Michigan guy, and you couldn't ignore the fact that he's such a big fan. And we also got him the helmet. You can get a commemorative helmet from the game.
Good job.
And the helmet is half of the helmet.
Did you put Lubie and my name on the gift card?
Half of the helmet's the Michigan's, the Michigan logo, and the other half is the Georgia logo.
So, just get him a personal visit with Harbaugh right before the game also while you're at it.
I'm working on that.
All right, so what do you think? I mean, I think you're with us, and I'm a little afraid of this opinion, Tony, because I'm no expert on college football. I'm not going to try to pretend that I am. I watch my share of it. I haven't seen enough to qualify myself and say, well, this is such a strong opinion. I'm just going by the few results that I saw in the climactic moments of the season. Michigan mowing down Ohio State, who I thought was playing great football at the time, and that was quite an achievement. And then
Iowa, too.
Rising to the occasion when everybody thought they were going to fall back on their face and bounce off of that big win and the emotional and
Yep.
The big
Yeah.
meaning of this victory to them because they've been getting trounced by Ohio State.
Yep.
I figure, all right, maybe it's a close game. So everybody was willing to go ahead and take the 10.5 with Iowa. They crushed them also, and very impressive. Georgia, not as impressive because there were suspicions that maybe they weren't that good because I don't know. Is there such a thing as a weak SEC schedule?
I guess.
Is it possible? I mean, to play
Well,
one?
They're in the
I
East.
don't know about that, but I think the question was that their defensive line was so dominating that they covered up the less than talented secondary.
Well, and their
Yeah.
offense, it covered up their offense. It allowed them to
Yeah,
take
yeah,
teams off the field so the offense could look more dominant than it
y-
really is.
exactly. And I think that it's going to see, can they bounce back from that? And can Michigan stay hot? Can Cincinnati stay hot? Can they catch Alabama off guard? Is Saban doing a good enough job convincing the fans and convincing his team that Cincinnati is a worthwhile opponent? I mean, that to me, those are the critical things.
Yeah.
Listen, these are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. They're smart. They're social media savvy. They're hearing people going, "Oh, Alabama's going to crush Cincinnati. Cincinnati doesn't belong there. They're going
And the
to,
spread's two touchdowns and for a playoff.
yeah." And Saban's going, "Don't listen to that. These guys are good, right?" Meantime,
What's he call it? Rat poison. That's Saban's
yeah, exactly.
terminology.
That meantime, Cincinnati is going, "Boys, we have nothing to lose. We're going to throw caution to the wind. We're going to have every kind of play from fake punts to fake field goals. We're going to have triple reverses. We're going to have tackles catching balls. We're going to do everything we can to disrupt their way of playing, their way of thinking. Okay, we are going to figure out a way to disrupt that. We're going to figure out a way on special teams to do something special."
Top receiver out for Alabama too. What was the
Yeah.
guy's name? Mechie, something like that.
Yeah, we're gonna throw caution to the wind here. We're just gonna let it hang out. We're happy we're here. We want to win, but we're gonna have some fun along the way. Okay, so Cincinnati gonna come out loosey goosey and kind of put it to them quick. Is Alabama going to try and put the thumb on them immediately and go, we're the big boys. You don't belong to, you don't belong here. So I think that's going to be as fascinating a game as Michigan, Georgia.
Is there that much of a differential? You saw Cincinnati live. Of course, it was against Houston in their conference AAC championship game. And we've watched. They've been a good team. We were talking, as we mentioned last week, with Michael Oresco, the commissioner of the AAC. Very interesting guy and a pioneer in a lot of ways of sports business with ESPN in his early years, and then ran a Big East. So he knows college football. And he was citing chapter and verse. I mean, it was like listening to a coach talk about the total recall of a bunch of games that took place that were influential in the past in keeping these AAC type of teams out of the Final Four. I'm glad they got a shot to get in there. And I don't know, is there really that big of a differential between the two teams in terms of the way they performed on the field? And obviously, Alabama's taken on some lofty competition and has probably been in more games that were challenging. But Cincinnati, at the same time, I mean, has been overwhelmingly impressive for a few years now.
Yeah. Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out real quick. The five-star athlete has been in this situation many times, whether it was in high school or here.
The moment.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, it's a big deal, man.
That's the second one, Lubie. I get the over.
It's a big deal. But I think Cincinnati will enjoy the moment. I think they'll embrace it. I think they belong there. And we're going to see
13 and a hook's worth, Tony. What do you think?
You know what?
You're getting almost 2 touchdowns, not quite. Maybe you could buy a half a point off somebody. Maybe you got that very generous bookmaker of yours. They'll give you 17.
I would not. I would love to bet Cincinnati just because I would.
I think the spread. Like, see, that's the thing with this game. I think it's going to be Bama, Georgia in the title game. But if we're doing the spread, which is what it exists for, I really would.
Who's in the point spread title game?
I'll go Michigan and Cincinnati. Like, I really think Michigan and Cincinnati.
So here, let me ask.
Take the points in the bowl games. No.
Let me ask you a question.
Yep.
If you're a TV executive, who do you want to see in the national championship game?
Well, that's why they never put these schools in the Final Four before. I mean, don't you think? All of a sudden, there's a call to Condoleezza, and she says, "Who's this? You say you're with ABC? Okay." Did they want to see some schlepper team in there? No. I mean, the Alabama-Cincinnati game, in a lot of people's opinion, is probably a dog. And if you were going to choose one of the two to watch, even though it occurs at a more awkward time for people that are going to be celebrating New Year's Eve, you would definitely say, if I'm going to invest 3.5 hours watching football on TV today, or 4 hours, maybe 5, it's going to be Michigan, Georgia. The game I expect to
Absolutely.
be somewhat competitive, and there are
Absolutely.
compelling arguments you can make for both teams in that game.
Absolutely. But for me, I would take Michigan in the game, in their game, and
7 and a hook.
yeah, and
All right.
probably not the smartest wager from a pure better standpoint. I know better that
Yeah.
ER rather than OR. I know better than this, but since I've been there and met them, my sense is I'd probably take Cincinnati. And
You fell in love with Cincinnati.
and hope to God that they hang on.
Just hang
I want Tony Perez doing a pregame speech and Pete Rose leading them out of the tunnel. That's what
Johnny Bench, throw the ball out.
Yes.
Whatever. I want the big red.
Give me Pedro Barbone out there. I don't care.
I want the big red machine out there.
Woods.
I want Boomer Esiason out there. I want Icky Woods out there. I want them all.
Yeah.
I want every iconic Cincinnati athlete.
Oh, Sam White.
Sam White, comes back from the heavens.
To go out there and listen. Do you recall
Dave Concepcion? Let's throw him in there.
Hey, do you recall what Howard Schnellenberger did for the championship game against Nebraska? How he brought Joe Namath in to speak to the team and hang on the sideline. And what did Don Shula do before the big Chicago Bears game, but bring back the 72 team on the sideline?
Yep. That was huge. Yeah,
it was huge.
Still your best call ever as a sportscaster when you said the Bears would win that game. And I didn't believe you were sincere. I thought you were being a freaking homer. And I condemned you for it, Tony, and I apologize.
But the Dolphins would win that game, not the Bears.
You had the Dolphins, winning that game. You were the only guy. Everybody thought you were out of your mind.
I know.
That's true. On somebody's payroll, to say that. All right, Catholic Health Services. We have to close this one out, but we don't want to go without mentioning our good friends at Catholic Health Services. And good friends is kind of how you feel in the way they're treating you, which is it's completely ulterior to a departure from anything you get in the usual medical field involvement, where you're concerned about a patient and or yourself. And you need the right count. That's what they give you.
I have heard stories about therapists and doctors so involved with their patients. And sometimes, like with your mom, it's time. The Lord is calling her back, and they're there to make it comfortable for the person that's going through this as they can for the family. But I've heard stories about how people from Catholic Health Services would actually go to funerals of the people that they had taken care of. That's how invested they are every single solitary day. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about rehab too. That's how they really started making their name. They are the destination of choice for many, many people in the southeastern part of the United States for stroke rehab. In many cases, the stroke patient gets up and back to as normal a life as they can possibly get. Quicker than they could have ever imagined. And the family's involved the whole way. And we've been talking about this now for a month. And since your mother had her situation, Jeff, how important it is to keep the family involved. And that's what Catholic Health Services does every single solitary day. It's a new year. They're going to do again what they did in 21. They're going to do it again in 22. They're going to deal with what they have to deal with COVID. They're going to stay clean. They're going to keep their facilities clean, spick and span. They're going to make sure their people are vaccinated. They're going to make sure that all the patients are taken care of with the utmost care, with the utmost protocol, and the utmost safety, and the families are kept in the loop. We love Catholic Health Services. They have been with us from day one. Yep. We promise you, folks, if you know anybody who needs help, please give Catholic Health Services a call. Go to their website, CatholicHealthServices.org. They will fill you in on exactly what they can do from hospice to rehab to home rehab. Whatever you need, they will handle.
I prefer rehab to hospice, but they handle everything and they do it in style. Tony Segredo, you have the happiest of New Year's. Enjoy the game. I know you're going to be a big part of the Orange Bowl festivities, and that's
It's going to be
feature
spectacular.
Michigan
Be safe
and
have fun,
Georgia.
sir.
Yeah, a big ball game here in South Florida, and Tony Segredo, of course, right in the center of it all, as always, and that's why we love you. Tony Segredo, old school, thank you for being with us, Tony. Have the happiest of New Year's and healthiest, and we'll talk to you on the other side of 2022 here on Ion Channel. Lubie, you have a good one as well. Have a nice celebration. We'll have
Happy
something
New
special
Year.
for you guys tomorrow here on Ion Channel on the Defo Show, so look forward to that. We're not going to shut you out on the holidays, and we wish everybody all the best. We'll see you tomorrow at 7 in the a.m. Thanks to Tony Segredo for being with us here. A little abridged edition of the Defo Show on Ion Channel. Thanks to the people there as well.
Yeah,
And,
thank
we
you.
will see you tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow, and then getting set for a big year in 2022. Although Jack's starting to make me nervous with these telephone calls and these texts during the show. Come on, Jack. Think big. All right. Well, we're doing it, and we hope you guys have the greatest of New Year's celebrations. If you don't catch us tomorrow or Friday, we will, be thinking of you guys and back with big plans for 2022. So we'll see you tomorrow at 7 in the a.m. as we leave you on that. It's time to celebrate.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my show.